Hey guys, before we start this video, I want to tell you guys that I'm gonna start a second channel called Anime Insider. And if you aren't familiar with this concept, then I highly recommend you guys to check out this video where I go in over the details of what this channel is going to do, what it represents, and how it might impact this channel in a positive way. You can expect us to do all things anime, from anime reviews to season breakdowns, comedy sketches, list videos. And the most important thing about the channel is going to be theory videos. And in these theory videos I'm going to go over all the different aspects of different animes and combine those worlds with our own worlds, math, history, science and all those things that you might become accustomed to of me doing on this channel. But now we're going to broaden our way towards other animes and other worlds. So if you guys want to support me on this endeavor, then please go to this link. I know it's a pretty darn long link because I don't have a personal URL just yet. So I'm gonna pin it in the top comment of this video and also in the description of this video, so you can go there and then subscribe to the channel. The first video is going to be up on February the 14th, so subscribe and hitting the bell button to be updated when we start uploading videos on the channel. And that's basically for me all now, so I'm gonna go and enjoy the video. The Vilest Deletor is here! I'm Mr. Time Leap, and you're watching Cardfight Update. Stand up! Vanguard! Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another update video. And right when I announced the new schedule on the channel, I knew something like this will happen. That Bushiroad randomly throws in another big reveal on not on Tuesday, and this is probably going to happen more often than I like to, that I need to make an extra video about some new cards or new developments, and this is basically it. So what did basically Bushiroad do? Well, they decided to drop a VR on Friday, and this is also the last big reveal that we're going to get for this set. As soon as it was the last VR, we already know about the secret deletor Vanguard SVR rare yada 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 secret pack that we're going to get. We know about the next upcoming booster that's going to be after the Bermuda set. And the only thing that they can reveal of Vilest Deletor is going to be a couple double rares, as seen as every triple rare, or I believe they only have, they have one triple R left for Deletors, but we know which one that is. So it depends on what Given is going to do. That's going to be the final big reveal, and I hope they're not gonna make the thing let the Vanguard reset, as that will make Deletors, in my opinion, a little bit too broken in standard. As what they did with their VR reveal is they actually managed to make Deletors playable and fair. In standard, at least. I don't know how it's gonna be impacting premium, as it's a very premium, useful card in the way that it is designed. But without further ado, let's take a look at the card that's been revealed, the new VR, and see how it works and what it may mean for the clan itself or the archetype as the leaders themselves. And then let's talk about the potential future support and other things that's going to come for the leaders and in general. So the card that was revealed, well, everybody knows about it, and that's Waving the Leader Greidhol. And he has two interesting skills. The first one is Continuous of Vanguard Circle. Your opponent's rearguards cannot move to other rearguard circles. And this is the first thing I have seen this in Vanguard, that we are locking our opponent out in this kind of way. And for those who don't really get what it actually means, is that you can still move units to other places on the field as long as they do not move to other rearguard circles. So if a rearguard is sent to the soul through a skill, that can still happen. You can still intercept with them, and you can still move it to the Vanguard circle if you could superior ride it from the rearguard to Vanguard circle. That's still viable. Or bounce units back to the hand, or retire them, or whatever. As long as they do not move to another rearguard circle, it's fine. So what that means is you cannot switch units from front to back row. You cannot do that. And you can also not swap them from other ways around. And in Premium, we get a lot of cards that can do that. Aquaforce, for example, has a lot of cards that can swap units from rearguard circle to rearguard circle. Megiddo, for example, is basically the embodiment of that kind of skill. And this card locks that unit out. It makes a Zero Dragon useless. And that's pretty big. In Standard, however, there is only one card that it blocks, and that's Trident Shooter for Aquaforce, but that was already, in my opinion, a very terrible card that is already bad. And now because of this card, and depending if the lead is going to be meta or not, that card is going to be even more worse than it already is. So that's a little bit interesting in how that's going to impact the way that it does. But it's a very interesting skill in the fact that when you have a unit in the back row and you retire something in the front row, or in Deletor's case, you bind it face up, your opponent cannot easily say, alright, I'm gonna move it to the front row and then attack with it. They cannot do that if you're sitting on this thing. They need to call more cards from their hand, meaning you have more snipe potential with your binding skills. So it's a little bit restrictive against your opponent in that kind of way, and they are forced to adapt to it in other kinds of means to put out more pressure against you. So that's a very interesting skill. But the big thing about this card is its second skill, and that is Auto Van Vanguard Circle. When it plays, cast, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and bind it face down. So it's like what the rear guards are already doing for basically Counterblast or Soul Blast, you bind something. And if this was the case, that this was a skill, it's pretty bad. But he has a second part to this thing, and that is, if you rode from a grade 3, delete your opponent's Vanguard, and this unit get a critical +1 until the end of turn. So if you rode it upon a grade 3, so it's your second ride, you Counterblast Soul Blast, you not only bind one rearguard, so they -1 on the field, you also delete their opponent's Vanguard, and you give a crit on your Vanguard, and that means that you're 13 against their 0, or potentially 23 or 33, as soon as you then already have 2 force marks on the field, 33 against their 0, and you have a crit on it. That can be very scary in some scenarios, and that can be very powerful. But it makes it balanced in a way that this is a terrible first ride card. If you ride it on your first grade 3, you can Counterblast Soul Blast to bind something, retire something basically. And that's not really efficient to go at, and if that's your grade 3 skill, that's pretty bad. It doesn't really give a big swing on your turn, and it doesn't really do that much for deleters. And that is really balanced in the fact that if you rode it upon a grade 3, then it's suddenly a very powerful card. And a lot of people might say, well, delete is going to be very powerful as soon as they have the grade 3 from the trial deck that Counterblast 2 delete something, and now we have a Counterblast 1 that can delete something, but it's only on your second ride turn and after that. And they have a countercharger. But that countercharger is what makes the deck, in my opinion, very balanced. It's that the countercharger is extremely restricted, and you can easily play around it if you're playing against the leaders. As that countercharger, and that's ill-fated deletor Drown, that I talked about in our previous Cardfight update video. His skill is when your opponent's Vanguard is deleted, so it needs to be on the field. The moment that you delete your opponent's Vanguard, then you need to have 0 face-up damage, and then you can countercharge 1 by putting it in the soul. The reason why it's easy to play around it is the powerful one of your deleting is Counterblast 1. That's your on-ride effect. That means that when it's your opponent's turn, they need to have that grade 1 on the field, they need to have only 1 Counterblast open, and they need to ride into that thing and then Counterblast 1 to delete their Vanguard. And they need to already be on a grade 3 to activate that. Well, if that thing is on the field, you're gonna put all your effort to destroy it in that case, as they cannot get their countercharge back. And as soon as a lot of other cards use Counterblast, they are gonna go pretty fast for the Counterblast if they want to put out more pressure against you. The other thing that you can do that they have is that Counterblast 2 card. But because that Counterblast 2 deleting is unactivated, they have more room that they can call the grade 1 first and then delete something. But because it's a Counterblast 2, it's a lot more restrictive in that kind of sense. So there is a lot of playability for you against your opponent if they are playing deleters to decide what kind of skills they can use and can't use, as you have a more swaying factor in the fact how they can use some cards. And that makes the clan, in my opinion, a lot more balanced than if they had a countercharger that stated when 1 or less face up, as then it would be a lot easier to play around. As when they have they are sitting at the new grade 3 at Greidhol, and you know that they don't have the Counterblast 2 grade 3, you can then easily say, alright, I'm going to give them 2 Counterblasts, and they cannot use that countercharger. And it might seem bad to give them more Counterblasts, but in the sense, if you give them 1 Counterblast, it's the same as giving them 2, but they can now also use that grade 1, and that grade 1 can give them soul, and it can bind something. So that's a very powerful grade 1 that you actually do not want to let them get access to. So in that sense, it's a very balanced card in the way that this card interacts with the other deleting cards. But it doesn't change the fact that it still gets a crit, and it deletes something, and it binds something. But in the way that it's restricted, I think it's a very balanced card, and it does what it needs to do, but it also gives room for improvement. And that's the next thing I want to talk about, the improvement part that we can see with Deletors with the upcoming support, as we still have the Given that's need to be revealed. So depending on what Given's going to do, the clan can be very, very busted. As if it says that you can stand your Vanguard, if you can stand this thing with a crit, yeah, that's gonna be very dangerous. That's probably an OTK turn in standard, as not a lot of people can deal with it. Maybe Protect clans can deal with it, but Force and Axel are gonna die from that. And so if it's gonna do that, it needs to have a very restrictive skill that basically retire maybe a full field. That can be very harsh in some sense, as we do not have stand triggers and we have no superior calling from deck that much. We have those grade 2 Elba and Elroy that can call themselves back from the drop zone, but that's all in place from hand, so depending on how that works out, and they are all grade 2 if Given is still grade 2 in this new reboot. So depending on what Given can do, that makes the clan really overpowered or balanced in an interesting kind of way. What is to my disappointment of this card is that I was hoping for that it does something with the binded cards, just like Schwarzschild did. As seen as you can run Schwarzschild in Deletors, but I don't know if it does mix well. I need to playtest it a little bit more to see how it goes. But let's say for this instance, you do not run that card, then you doesn't do that much with that binding. You just bind them to minus them on the field. And I was hoping that this card, Greidhol, will do something with that. But that said, the reason why I think they made Greidhol not that overpowered and with a lot of improvement room left is it seems we now already know the next support wave for Link Joker, as they are gonna get in about. Next one is going to be Bermuda Trial Deck, and then we're going to get Bermuda Set. Then basically in 3, the third support wave after this support wave is going to get another Link Joker support, and it's going to be focused around the Planetary Corpse series, the brand cards, and that might have something to do with the Bind Zone, for example. And that can also make maybe a more improvement on Greidhol, or it can outright replace Greidhol, depending on what it's gonna do, or it replace the Counterblast 2 card from your trial deck. But at the same time, an actability by deleting card has some merit over an unwrite deleting card. But in premium, this card is very interesting, as seen as you can write this thing, use its skill, and then you can stride. And that makes this thing very powerful in premium, as there's a lot more interaction going, as they actually want to have an unwrite deleting skill than a main phase deleting skill, as they probably cannot use that skill, as they want to go stride every turn after that, and depending which clan you're using. And Link Joker, I think you want to keep striding, as your main phase cards abilities aren't really that great. And as seen as has a continuous skill that locks out any movement on the field, that can be really annoying in premium, as stated before. It locks out Megiddo, for example. So that's one Xerath Dragon you don't have to worry about. And some clans' interactions is also be locked with this, and your opponent is forced to call more cards to the field if they want to put out pressure against you. So I think this card is going to be more impactful in premium than in standard, as in standard it's very balanced in the sense that your opponent can wiggle around it and give you resources or not, and depending on what kinds of cards are on the field for you. And in my opinion, that is great for this card. And I'm very excited for what they're going to do with the upcoming Link Joker support. Also what Given is going to do. And I think we're going to have only one more video for concerning this set. Depends on what they're going to do with the live stream on Tuesday. If they're going to reveal any kinds of cards. Or if the last double rares and triple rares aren't really that remarkable to talk about. Then I'm going to skip that. And we're going to go straight into the set reviews the week after that. So depending on what we're going to see for the last high rarity cards, they're going to be in one more Cardfight update video for Vilest Deletor, or this is the last one, and I will see you guys in the set reviews. So with that said, you know what to do. Like the video, hit the subscribe button, and the bell button to be updated for a future video. Also check out Anime Insider, as we're going to go live on that channel in a couple of weeks. As always, I'm Mr. Timely, and see you guys in the next one.